Hi, I'm Kathy Mills and I'm here with Tina Brock for an interview today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Anytime. We are actually having a coffee date as well today because we've been talking about a coffee date for a very long time. So we're also having coffee, even at
Yeah.
9 p.m.
Yeah, yes, and 9 a.m. here. It figures prominently into most creative endeavors. So I'm
Yep.
glad to finally have the chance to sit down with you and, and share a cup.
Me too. Me too. Okay, can I get you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure, yeah. My name, I'm Tina Brock. I changed my name. I didn't change it, but I added my middle name to most platforms and things that I'm doing now, and so that I go by Tina Ann Brock. But because I found out there is a woman in California who is a well-known scientist whose name is Tina Brock, and so when searches and things were coming up, we found we were intersecting, and it seemed logical to put my middle name in there, just kind of separate the two of us. So when she would I'm sure when she was doing searches of her name as well, getting theatrical and film things. So, yeah, I am actress, stage, film and television actress. For a number of years, I started out producing when I was really, really young, producing shows in my backyard and just engaging all of my neighbors to come on and do their favorite, baton twirling and whatever the variety series show thing was they did well. I would encourage them to come into our shows, so I've been doing it for a long time on some level, directing, producing, and acting. So
Yep.
that's kind of it. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Which one do you prefer doing the most?
Oh, interesting. I think they all inform each other a lot. And of course, the skills that one needs, are best suited to producing, sort of the organization, the marketing, the kind of the sense of like what is a show. I have a theater company, so selecting plays for production over the past 20 years has been an interesting endeavor. I like them all for different reasons. And of late, I've been doing a lot more acting, although I am in a show right now that I am also producing and directing. So I think they all inform each other in ways that are can be very helpful.
Yeah.
Doing all of them at the same time requires some juggling and requires some compartmentalization, I think. But I'm glad that I have been able to do all of them, and I feel like it informs my work when I go to work on other projects for, whenever I'm working on a vertical, say, for
Yeah.
instance. What's interesting is I don't generally come into the project thinking, with a director or a producer's hat on. I come in with an actor's hat on because that's
Yeah.
what I'm hired to do. I'm not going to say things never cross my mind,
Yeah.
but I tend to be able to sort of put those things to side and just focus on the thing, particularly on a vertical set where so much is happening so quickly in such a short period of time and things change and there's just a lot of fluidity in how that process happens. It's sort of the diametric opposite of what happens when you're producing a show over a theater production over of course of. So I like all of those things for very different reasons. And my background, um, I have, it's kind of, it's a good and I would say it's always a good thing, but it's a master of a lot of things. And well, I would say whatever the phrase is, where you do a lot of things, and I think
Yeah.
I do some of them very well, but um, I've never really particularly focused. I guess acting is the one I've focused on the most. Um, but just my background and some of the things I did in college and the way I came to acting. I didn't go to school. Theater was my minor, and theater and dance
Okay.
were my minor. So I learned. I was a journalism major, so I learned a lot about business and writing and a
Yeah.
lot of the things that helped me in the producing end of it all.
Yeah. So I actually did some research before I came into this interview. But now, since you mentioned the other Tina, I don't know if medical education is the correct one for you.
Yes, yes, no, that's me. That is me.
Okay, good,
This, I
good.
believe this, and I don't want to speak because I don't know this woman personally, but she is
Mm,
in some area of research, I believe, in medicine. That is a
okay.
very different. She's a published scholar, and that's a whole nother can of worms. My
Yeah.
work is in medical education with universities as an adjunct to like a lot of actors do this work, where you're
Yeah.
helping students to understand, communication skills. You're helping to guide them through learning and reviewing, physical physical exam maneuvers. So I
Yeah.
do that work, or have done, not so much lately, but as an adjunct to my other work. But
Mm,
yes, she does, I believe, work in the medical, like maybe pharmaceutical end of things.
yeah. Well, I've got some research before which turned out not to be right because of, again, the same name type thing. So I just wanted to make sure that I got the correct information
Yes,
here.
I haven't published any papers on
Yeah.
very, very in-depth and complicated subjects.
Hmm.
All of my work that I've ever done, and I haven't done it I work in an academic setting, but I'm not an academic per se. So,
All right. Well, you have a background in journalism, dance, speech communication, psychology, and also medical education. Have these experiences shaped your approach to acting in any way?
oh, sure, yeah. I started out doing some graduate work in psychology and then quickly became sort of busy with the acting thing. So that degree never came to fruition. I think certainly psychology is, I'm looking right down. I picked up Uta Hagen's book again. It's Respect for Acting, and I'm actually on the chapter right now where she talks about the building a character and the psychology of that. And so I think, yeah, having a sense of curiosity about yourself, about, obviously the other characters that you're playing with, and sort of using that to help build a character, I think is really helpful for me. Journalism is, it is a form of factual storytelling that I think is really, um, I started out in school wanting to be a broadcast journalist, and I ended up doing working at my public broadcasting station here in the United States. And I think you have something similar over in maybe where it's sort of funded by the public, right? And it's
Yes.
and it lives by fundraising, and so they use, staff from the stations and also actors to help, make the case as to why on air people should give money. And I think that journalism, you know, I mentioned it's a form of factual storytelling. And I think when you combine that with sort of the psychology of character and trying to sort of mine what the playwright really is trying to say or do, um, you're always telling a story and you're trying to make the story as interesting and true to form as you can. So I've certainly found that to be helpful. Medical education, I really enjoy I enjoy being around the students a lot and their curiosity about the human condition and and how to kind of take a problem and assess it and put the pieces together to try to solve that issue. Because I think we do something similar as actors, you
Yeah.
know, and as individual actors, you're always,
Yeah.
I think, trying to crack the nut of what your particular challenges are as an actor. And then there's the challenges, within the character as well.
Yeah. Okay. How do you adjust your performance for theatre versus film?
Mm. Yeah, so I feel like, and verticals are very interesting, kind of to my mind, sort of hybrid of that, in
Yeah.
the sense that not that each vertical is not each vertical director obviously is looking for something different and doing a different thing, and some are more heightened and whatnot. But on stage, whether it's in a 100-seat theater or a 500-seat theater or larger, um, it needs to reach the audience
Yes.
vocally and sort of like, you know, physically as well. but in both mediums, I think you are drawing, you're, you are, you know, creating a situation in which the audience can come to you, particularly in cinema, where literally the audience is seeing into the back of your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, you adjust it both physically and you adjust it vocally, perhaps, and you may adjust it. Just, the frame is the picture
Yeah.
cinematically. So you're living within that frame. And the further back in my mind, memory, whatever it is I'm using to bring the story alive, that is the large. And I think there's a place for both of those on stage.
Yeah.
Um, it just depends on the scene, the situation. Um, it's kind of like surfing is the way it feels to me. I've never surfed before, but let me just say snow skiing maybe because
Yeah.
I have done, or ice skating,
Yeah.
that it is just fluid. It's fluid and it kind of, ebbs and flows depending upon your instrument and what you're, what is happening inside of you and what's happening with the other actors and, a combination of things.
Yeah. Okay. Could you walk us through what a day on set looks like for you compared to a rehearsal on stage?
Oh, fun. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just I was just texting with someone I'm sure you know well from his wonderful work, Hunter Cole.
Yeah.
I've worked with Hunter quite a bit last year. I haven't not so much recently, but quite a few times in 2024. And I some of my fondest memories so far have been the figuring out how, so let's say we're staying at a location, right? And the location doesn't have to bring coffee back into the
Yeah.
conversation. Let's say the hotel just doesn't is in the middle of kind of a place that doesn't have a Starbucks right around the corner or whatever.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to get to the coffee without a car or figuring out how to get the coffee to us. Now, these things are not impossible, right? Because we have all kinds of delivery services and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing. That's the first part of the day that we always tackle together. And I have very fond memories of like not being able to like literally creatively jump off the platform until we had coffee. And
Yeah.
then, it's is there time? Is there a gym in the hotel? It depends on if you're like near the set and you're coming for your home, but is there a gym in the hotel? If so, okay, maybe there's time for, a quick trip to the gym and a quick trip to the gym to learn lines for that
Yeah.
project or for another project. And then it's really it could be a day where, depending on how many scenes you're in for that day. Now I play, majority of supporting characters, of course, my age, and I'm playing somebody's mom or somebody's CEO. And those, I might be in many scenes that day, or I might be in three scenes that day. So you kind of have to portion your day out, your energy and your day, because working on set is a lot different than being on stage. When the curtain goes, you're often running. And in the particular show that I'm working on right now, I'm literally only off stage to make costume changes, and then I'm back on stage again. And they're very fast costume changes. So
Yeah.
there's literally no downtime at all to go to the, to like visit the bathroom, to do all of those things. Um, so you kind of jump off the board and you're running, and it is just, it's one fluid kind of thing that's happening.
The constant.
It's constant. And, the energy required to sort of maintain the focus for 2 hours or whatever you're doing and kind of just be fluid within that is the big challenge for me. Um, the it's a different kind of challenge when you're working on set because you have to parse out your energy for the day. And if you have, say, a very emotional scene and you're doing it very late in the day, which happened recently where literally it was like 8 hours of sitting and then like the scene came up, it is
Mm.
about thinking through, okay, how am I going to, and also if you're a person that does, like I do very well, I'm sort of an early morning person and I do well in the morning. And then as the day goes on, my clock starts to kind of wind down, I have to keep that in mind, you know? Like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm not shooting until later in the day. How am I going to manage this? Do I go to the gym to keep my energy up? What do I do? You know? And then
Yes.
there's just the sabotage. It's not intentional sabotage, but it just is what happens on set with like, oh, I'm starting to get tired. Okay, I'll have some sugar, I'll
Yeah.
have some more coffee, I'll do whatever. There's also the excitement of just meeting new people, people that you haven't worked with before. I always love that. That kind of keeps the energy going. There's checking your email. There's trying to figure out, can I like these three auditions that came in? If you've brought, you know, which most actors have their ring light with them. Okay, it's like I got
Yeah.
to figuring out when am I going to get these auditions in. So you're basically doing work during the day, which is nice, but it's
Hmm.
parsing all of that out so that you can have the energy you need to be able to do the work that you're being
Yeah.
paid to do,
Yeah.
even if it isn't, you know, on a regular clock. So, and it's different on every set, every director, every group
Yeah.
of actors. It's just the things. I think on a vertical set, it is just it's being there to support the leads in what they're
Yeah.
doing and being able to get through it. With, you know, something that you're feeling really good about in one or two takes,
Yeah.
and then being able to get yourself ready for the next day because you're learning the pages for the next day. You know, having read through the script a number of times and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, before you do the thing, it
Yeah.
still for me is just doing the preparation the day before or the time before because I will never keep those scenes in my head.
Yeah, I've also known that you sometimes you don't get the scenes until really, really close to when you have to go anyway. So sometimes you just have to be quick
You
and
just
just
have to
go.
be quick and just get it as close as you know, get it, you know, word for word if you can, as close as you can. It
Yeah.
also depends on the script, the director. Do they want it, you know, absolutely down the lane, word for word? Are they changing some of the
Yeah.
dialogue along the way? Or, you know, and a lot of that is driven by it, mostly driven by, I guess, by the director, producer, and then, you know, sometimes the leads will, you know, suggest that there be changes on things. But it's really like juggling a lot of different balls. And I think that is one of the very challenging things about and rewarding things about working on vertical set is just that you are really get good at just juggling a lot of balls very quickly
Yeah.
and um you know keeping your focus the entire time
Mhm.
if the
Do you
entire time.
find do you find that if you get the script too early, you start to overthink your lines, or do you prefer to get it closer to the time to just go through them quickly?
Yeah, I mean, either way, when I first get it, I will read through it a couple of times, just to kind of get the sense of, you know, obviously the character, sort of what my goal is, and generally
Yeah.
that's pretty clear because you're either protagonist or antagonist or
Yeah.
combination of those things, somebody who gets reformed as the show goes
Yeah.
on. You know, I I would prefer to have some time to read it, but I really have not found that trying to learn those. I mean, I need a little bit of time to learn lines, and so having a day or so is enough for me. And what I tend to do is just I ask for the breakdown of which scenes are happening on which day, and then I focus just on those days. And I go out, I go through and I figure out, okay, which days are going to be the biggest lift. How, you know, either because the scenes are long or because there's a lot of action or because there's a lot of emotional, where are the days? And I like plot it out so that I know. So also it's another energy issue of like,
Yeah.
okay, my two big days are here and here, and then I have a day off, and then I've got like an okay day where, and then I have a very light day. You know,
Yeah.
that for me is the greater thing that I have to figure out, as well as the sort of structure of the day, the like, am I working, if like say I'm working in New York or whatever it is, like the transportation for that day and like how long is it going to take me to get there? So all of
Yeah.
those, you know, it's a lot of that stuff that's sort of the producer part of doing the job, the admin part of doing the job, where you just have to like be really good at those things so that you can be efficient about your time. And then there's the creative part of it, which is doing the job. So I, you know, either way, but it is nice to have a little time. I like to figure that sort of chart out of what is this week going to look like for me.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. How do you make similar roles feel unique?
Oh, interesting. I love to suggest costume pieces of my own wardrobe. I have quite a like just theatrically over the last 20 years collection of you name it, hats, dresses, clothing. My mother also left me a lot of her hats. She just loved, she
Yeah.
was a hat person, and a lot of her costume jewelry and whatnot. So once I get the costumer reaches out, wardrobe reaches out and sort of gives a sense of like the storyboard of or the look board of like who is this character in their eyes or in the director's eyes, then I sometimes will go into my own personal things and say, hey, what do you think about this or this or this? Because I think those personal objects have I have an attachment to them and they mean something to me, and I don't select them randomly. I try to select them based on, yeah, based on the board that I'm
Yeah.
given. And then I can sort of start to weave a little bit of a quilt about who that person is. And let's, I mean, a lot of these, the villainesses or the CEOs or whatever are, I mean, they are drawn similarly. The what happens to them might be slightly different, but I've noticed that some will have redeeming qualities in some areas and maybe not others. So they might be like, I mean, most do have a true love of some one person in their family, or it's usually the child or whatever. Um, but they vary in terms of how ruthless they are and what the storyline is. Is it, you know, yeah, what is the enterprise, as well,
Yeah.
which I think the enterprise drives it a little bit. Is it jewelry? Is it art? Is it what is the family like? What is the wealth? And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I use that in broader terms, the wealth of the family, both emotionally and
Yes.
also just, and then I sort of draw it from there. It is a quicker sketch, obviously, um because you're not working on it for 3 months, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to make these decisions quickly and just go with them.
Yeah, just like quick, strong, clear, bold, because I mean, I mean, I think it's a lot of people's philosophy that as a director, you can always, generally, I shouldn't say always, generally you can can probably pull someone down, but you might not be
Yeah.
able to get somebody to enlarge that character if that's not, if that's not sort of in their DNA, if that's not what their performative, qualities have. So, and I have noticed recently in audition notices them being directors, producers asking for uh, strong emotional opinions,
Okay. Hmm,
which is
that's good.
interesting.
Hmm. Okay. How do you approach understanding your character's backstory when it's not fully written into the script?
Mm. Um, I fill in the details where I need to. So I am not generally a person, an actor either for stage or otherwise,
Yeah.
that has, I have a great deal of admiration for and respect for people that do that as a process. I think it is whatever works for you to get to where you need to be. And for me, it tends to be a little bit more based in um the presently, what am I striving for, what do I need, or what effect am I, like what's going on for me within myself, and what effect am I trying to have on somebody else. So and how do I go about getting that. I'm not going to say I don't think about where I might have been, or what, moments prior to things, or where am I coming from, or what's happening for me, particularly in the audition. I mean, when you get on set, some of that is just, it's built in because it's presenting itself as you are there. In other words, the actors you're working with are there. They're in the scene with you, and a lot of your imagination is taking hold and kind of kicking in, similar to how it does on stage, for me. Um, in an audition, it's a little bit different because I just have like two little stickers, on my computer. I'm in my studio right now that just
Mm.
represent, they're not even photos of people. They're just like eye line levels. And I have to, it helps me anyway to create a little bit of an environment, so
Yeah.
that I can have the sense that people are in the room and where am I and where did like, all of that so that it just brings for me a little bit more of a sense of connectedness to both the environment and also to the actor that I'm
Yeah.
playing with, that I'm supposed to be in the scene with. Because basically, you're hearing a disembodied voice because my
Yeah.
readers are not in person. I'm
No.
having them on Zoom, and so that is it's a little bit more challenging, I find, in auditions
Yeah.
than it is when I'm actually on set.
Yeah, no, that's fair, definitely. Okay. Okay, so you've done a bit of both of these, so I love asking this question. What's more challenging for you? Delivering subtle emotion in a quiet scene or sustaining high energy during action or dramatic scenes?
Mm, harder. Um, Oh gosh, I think I love the challenges of both of them. And it's funny you asked the question about the differences between stage and film. And I was thinking in the show the other night, there are um, so many very quiet, awkward, uncomfortable, family
Yeah.
moments in this play that I'm doing now. And there's also the sort of the dramatic explosion of things that happens. And I love the challenges of both of them. I think the trap for me can be um monitoring, not monitoring because that means that you're like what, but sort of like surfing through the super dramatic scenes um in a way that and not forgetting what the different tactics that a character would try. In other
Yeah.
words, if like being so we're in a very dramatic explosive scene and it goes on, and I'm thinking about one of the verticals I did where it took place outside and it was like a very long scene and people just kept arriving and then the militia came in and then this person then the bad guy came in and I was defending it actually was one that Hunter was in and I was defending he was my son and I'm defending him and the scene just went on and on and on and every
Mm.
time like a new person came in, there was more dialogue where it was like, get off my turf or whatever. And I remember thinking, specifically, like, what's the tactic that I can use with this new interloper that doesn't feel like, you know, that's authentic, but doesn't keep like that we're not just sustained at this level for like
Yeah.
ever. And obviously that's an editing thing as well. And
Yes.
that happens a lot on a production end. But I find that they're both really equally interesting as far as being a performer, and also a lot of times it just depends on what the other actor is giving you in the scene that dictates. Do I want to go low or high with this? Like, what am I
Yeah.
actually feeling, and where do I want to take? It's like singing in a way, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and you can feel it just as you would in life if you're trying to get somebody to do something and the bombast isn't working
Yeah.
and we got to try something else. We got to, or
Yeah.
else they're just gonna walk out on you. So, um, both are equally, equally fun for me.
Yeah.
It's more figuring it out.
Yes, I also know like in real life we use those tactics too. So like in some approaches we know which way to go. You know, we know that this way is going to work for this person or this way is going to work for this one. But like on a vertical or something, you just got to go with what feels right in the moment.
Hmm.
So
And the directors, like I always rely on them for like how large do and I use the word large, but
yeah,
that's a general term for
extravagant,
how dramatic and
dramatic.
extravagant
Yeah.
are we going in this
Yeah.
scene. And that just a lot of times that's just clear at the beginning of and so you've already figured out, oh, okay, we have to be at a
Yeah.
15 or whatever,
Yeah. I noticed that in these verticals, they like the villain to be very, very dramatic. So
Yes, the villains
Yeah.
can't be too villainous, it seems. And that's an that can be a challenge, I think, to for me to sort of what are the different ways one can be villainous?
Yeah.
That's a question I ask myself a lot. Um, yeah.
Yeah.